You were probably told you were gifted as a child. School was just easy for you. You didn't really have to open the textbook or study for the tests. You could just hear the teacher talk and you understood the whole thing. You finished your work fast, and everyone around you, your parents, your teachers, your friends, they all told you that you were special. You felt like you had a fast pass to a great life. You felt like you were going to be a huge success, no problem. But now, you're 28, 35, 41, or maybe even 50. It's different, isn't it? You see people you know, people who struggled in school, and people who had to work really hard just to get decent grades. And now, those people are doing great things. They have their own successful businesses, they're disciplined, and they're moving forward. Meanwhile, you feel stuck. You feel like the smartest person in the room who is making the least amount of progress. It feels unfair. It feels like you have a super powerful engine inside your chest, but the car just won't drive. You keep revving it, but nothing moves.
This is the psychology behind people who are smart but can't succeed. And once you see it, you don't unsee it.
There's a truth that nobody really talks about, and it's a hard one to hear. Your high intelligence is not just failing to guarantee your success. It might actually be the very thing that is holding you back. You aren't failing in spite of how smart you are. You might be failing because of it. In this video, we are going to look into the psychology of why this happens and how you can finally get out of this invisible cage. The first big problem comes from how we learned what being smart means. When you were young and things came easily, people praised you for being smart. They didn't praise you for working hard. You got used to a special feeling. You look at a problem, you figure it out quickly, and then you get that nice burst of happiness, that feeling of pride. This creates a very weak ego, even though you feel like you are confident.
You become addicted to being the person who just gets it. But this creates a dangerous fragility.
When you become an adult, the real-world problems are much bigger. They are messy. They don't just have one answer, and they don't solve themselves in 5 minutes. When you finally hit a wall, when you have to struggle to learn a new skill, or you fail at something, or you have to put in a lot of effort, it feels like a physical punch. Because to you, struggling means, I'm not smart anymore. You start to believe your intelligence is like a light switch. It's either on or off. Psychologists call this a fixed mindset. You believe your talent is just a thing you have. And if you have to try hard, it means the talent is gone.
Think about a time you stayed quiet in a meeting because you weren't 100% sure of the answer. You'd rather say nothing than risk being wrong. Meanwhile, the guy next to you blurted out a half-baked idea, got corrected, adjusted, and got credit for the solution. He played the game while you tried to protect your high score.
So what do you do when you hit that struggle? You panic, you quit, you put the project away, or you stop trying in the relationship, or you don't even apply for the job. You tell yourself, I'm not really trying, so I didn't fail, because you are protecting that core identity, I am smart. You simply lack the emotional space to feel confused or stupid. Think about your friends who struggled in school. They had to learn how to deal with feeling dumb every single day. They learned that confusion is just the normal first step to learning anything new. They learned to keep showing up even when they were frustrated. That was their secret superpower, and you missed out on it because things were too easy for you early on. You have to understand that your work isn't about how smart you are anymore. It's about how much effort you are willing to spend to look like a beginner again.
The next major trap is what we call analysis paralysis, or simply overthinking everything. Your high intelligence makes you like a supercomputer. You can imagine all the possible things that could happen. If you want to start a business, you don't just think about the idea. You think about the product, the marketing, the funding, the legal risks, what your competition will do, and what you'll do if the economy collapses. You can see all the risks clearly. This feels like you're being smart, but it's really just a clever way to stay frozen. Imagine a chess master who sees 8 moves ahead. That sounds great, right? But if they never move a piece because they are waiting for the perfect opening that carries 0 risk, they lose on time. You are losing on time. You are treating life like a simulation where you can hit reset, but the clock is ticking in real time. Look at the people who are succeeding. They often just start. They jump in before they know everything. They are too naive or maybe too simple to see all the dangers you see. They don't know enough to be scared, so they just start walking. They make mistakes, they look silly, but they move. Meanwhile, you are standing still, making the perfect 10-year plan that will never start. You are using your brain power to build a high wall around yourself, and that wall is made of research and planning. You think that if you just think about it a little bit longer, you can find a path with zero chance of failure, but that path does not exist. Everything worth doing has risks. You get caught in what feels like work. You are thinking, you are researching, you are organizing documents, but no actual steps are being taken. This is what we call mental masturbation. It feels good because your brain is spinning fast, but nothing comes of it. You feel productive, but you aren't. You are constantly calculating the cost of doing something wrong, the cost of failure, the cost of embarrassment, but you rarely calculate the cost of inaction. What is it costing you to stand still for 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years? The cost of doing nothing is always higher than the cost of trying and failing. While you are trying to find the perfect name and logo for your business, someone else has already sold their first 1,000 products with a name they thought up 5 minutes ago. You need to understand that smart thinking is useless without simple action. Your fancy car needs a driver, not just a mechanic. The third big problem, and this one is tough, is the novelty addiction. Because you have a quick mind, you need things to be interesting. You need new problems to solve. When you start a new project, whether it's learning a new language, starting to work out, or getting a new job, the beginning is great. You are learning the ropes, you are figuring out the system, and your brain is buzzing. You get addicted to the feeling of figuring things out. But every single worthwhile thing in life, success, mastery, skill, eventually stops being new and exciting. It becomes a grind. It becomes repetition. It becomes boring.
It's the difference between falling in love and staying married. Anyone can fall in love. It's exciting and chemical, but staying married requires doing the dishes, paying the bills, and having the hard conversations. You are in love with the idea of success, but you hate the marriage of doing the work. You have to do the same simple things, like practicing scales or making the 10th version of the same spreadsheet, or doing the same marketing outreach. This is the moment you check out. You say to yourself, I get it, I could totally do this if I wanted to, and then you quit and move on to the next bright, shiny idea. You are a person who starts many races but finishes none of them. You have a graveyard of half-finished projects because you are addicted to the learning part, not the finishing part. The truth is, high success is almost always found in the boring, simple work that happens after the initial excitement wears off. That boring work is the secret door to the top level. Because you are smart, you think you are too good for the grind. You think repetition is for people who didn't understand the lesson the first time. But repetition isn't about understanding. It's about making the action automatic. You have a huge library of knowledge, but it's all incomplete. You know a little bit about everything, but you can't actually do anything with true skill.
So, if you see yourself in these 3 traps, the fear of effort, the paralysis of overthinking, and the addiction to new things, how do you get out? You don't need to suddenly become less smart. You just need to point your intelligence in a different direction. First, you must give yourself permission to enter what we call the fool phase. You have to let yourself be bad at things. When you start that new project, tell yourself, I am going to do this poorly. Detach your self-worth from the result. Your goal is not to be a genius. Your goal is to be a student who is learning something new. You have to be okay with looking dumb in front of others. Think of the first time you tried to ride a bike. You wobbled, you fell, and you looked silly. But you didn't stop because you weren't a bike genius yet. You just got back on. You need to be willing to fall again. This is the only way to grow. Second, you need the do it badly rule. If you are stuck because you are overthinking, force yourself to take an action that is intentionally imperfect. Write the worst first draft of that paper you can. Record a terrible, low-quality video. Launch a website with a design you hate.
Imagine someone wants to get in shape and spends weeks studying the perfect workout. They have a plan on paper but haven't lifted a single weight. Meanwhile, someone else who knows nothing just shows up at the gym and starts lifting. 6 months later, the second person is stronger, while the first is still reading. You don't need the perfect plan. You need to take action.
You must break the paralysis by making the bar for starting so low that you cannot possibly fail to start. You cannot steer a car that is parked. You need to start moving, and then you can use your powerful brain to steer and correct the path.
You need feedback velocity. How fast can you go from an idea in your head to a result in the real world? Smart people have very slow feedback velocity because they spend months planning. You need to shorten that loop.
Third, you need to starve the part of your brain that wants new things.
When you feel that itch to quit a project because it's boring, you need to recognize that feeling for what it is. It is the barrier that separates the ordinary people from the successful people. You need to stay with that uncomfortable, boring feeling. You must commit to a boring period. Tell yourself, I am not allowed to start any new course, any new book, or any new project until I finish the project I am currently working on. This trains your brain to value finishing over starting. Being intelligent is a wonderful thing, but it is also a huge weight. It comes with the stress of knowing you could be so much more. The world is full of brilliant people who are simply waiting for someone to discover them or waiting for the perfect time to start. But the world does not reward your ability to wait. It rewards people who take action. It rewards people who move. Your intelligence is not a trophy to keep safe in a glass cabinet. It is a powerful tool, and tools are meant to be used to get dirty and to build something real. Stop thinking so much. Stop planning every little detail. The only way to truly waste your potential is to never try to use it. Now, go do something brave. Go do something imperfectly. Just go do something. If you want to understand more about why you feel paralyzed, watch this video next on the lazy but ambitious personality type. It might just be the missing piece of the puzzle.